Well, here we are again. Welcome to another episode of Montana Haven. Today, Priscilla and I wanted to share a little bit of our story, our love story, how we met. We had some requests from our last video that we made called Growing Up Amish. If you haven't seen that, go back a few videos, and we had a lot of fun making that. A lot of people commented. If you haven't met us before, I'm Joas.
And I'm Priscilla.
And we have 5 wonderful children at home. And we just took a little bit of time off this afternoon and decided to make this fun video of our love story. So today we're just going to share with you about how we met. If you have not seen our other video, we both grew up in a conservative Amish community, and without running water, electricity, and all those fun things, indoor toilets. But here we are today, and we've come a long ways. God has been good to us, and we want to share with you. This is just one of the videos that we want to put out, and we want to share with you some of the interesting things that have happened in our lives, how we met, and a few more of those things. In 1992, we moved from a small Amish community called Rexford, Montana, to the place where we currently live in Libby, Montana. And my dad built log homes, started in 1980, so I grew up in that business. But when we moved to Libby, we sold our business, we moved to Libby, and we restarted another log home company. And we sold a home in Michigan, so my dad and a few of the employees went to reassemble the home, like put it together for the client. And because they were gone over the weekend, Dad heard of an Amish community close to where they were working, and they decided to check it out. So they went to this, my dad went to this Amish community called Ovid, Michigan. That was the name of the community. And here was where Priscilla lived. And so during that course of conversation, my dad met her dad. This was when I was 12 years old, and you would have been about 9.
You were only 12.
In 1992, I was 12, yep.
That's when that happened.
Yep.
Then I was just 10.
10 or so, yeah. So
Yeah.
we were pretty small. That seems strange.
But I didn't meet him
No.
yet.
Yep. So my dad met your dad, and
Yeah,
then,
they stayed in our home in Michigan. I
right,
remember
you
that.
remember that? Okay. And during that time, there was this kindred spirits, and through that time, it started a relationship of our community in Libby and the LC Ovid community in Michigan. And we started fellowship back and forth, I guess you could say. Your dad came out a few times to visit us. A few of my siblings went in to visit the community there, your community. But we didn't know we existed until later. So why don't you go ahead and tell that story.
One winter, my parents came out here to be with the community here. And when they came back, my mom was telling us about this a 14-year-old boy, or no, a 16-year-old, I think, that she was really impressed with because he knew so much about birds, and my mom is a bird lover. So it intrigued me. It's like, who is this boy? And then my brother Benjamin also went out with my parents. And when he came back, I knew he had a few pictures. It was at the time when we were using cameras, but they were these throwaway cameras.
Disposable
cameras. And we were kind of doing it in
on
secret.
The sly, yeah.
In
Now,
secret.
Amish aren't allowed to have cameras, in case you did not know that.
Yeah,
Most
of them.
Yeah, most Amish communities don't have cameras, so we didn't have cameras at that time, but a few of the youth were maybe a little on the edge, so they had these disposable cameras that kind of almost passed the test.
Our family used them, but we used them in secret. I knew my brother Benjamin had taken a few pictures, and so I looked at him, and there was this picture of Joas. It was a dark picture. He was up in his room with the big owl glasses on, but something about him. I was only 14 years old, but just looking at that picture impressed me, and I don't know why. But
I don't know either.
I just felt like someday I'm gonna know this boy, and so.
Yeah, that's where you first saw a picture of me.
Yeah.
So I'll go to the next thing, I guess. So we met for the first time. I was 17, and you were 15, and my sister married her school teacher that she had when you were in what grade?
8th grade.
8th grade. So Her 8th grade school teacher is now my brother-in-law, and he lived in the Ovid community. So, because he was your school teacher, he invited some of his prior students to his wedding, and he invited Priscilla and her sisters to his wedding. The wedding was here because my sister was from here, and so you traveled out with the train, and I'll never forget it. I knew there was like some girls coming, and here's the thing. There was hardly any youth in our community at that time. There was pretty slim pickings, and so didn't have many youth. So it was always exciting when there was youth going to come, because you did fun things. You played volleyball, and you went on hikes and did fun things like that. So I look forward to this, and I'll never forget where I first saw her. I was going outside, I believe, to chore or something like that, and I was leaving the house, going down the front steps of my parents' home, and Priscilla and her friend that came with her was going up the front steps, and we met on the steps. Said whatever, just kind of smiled at each other and probably didn't say anything. But anyways, that was the first time I saw her.
Yeah. And when we traveled with train because we were not allowed to travel with airplanes.
Right.
We didn't fly. It was my first train ride, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, that's where I met Joas for the first time, was on the steps of his parents' house. And I remember just glancing at him and giving him a smile. I think that was it. And with the Amish, the youth, they don't talk to each other that much.
Opposite sex.
Yeah, there's a respect there for our community anyway.
Right.
There's other communities where they have the Rumspringa, but we did not have that.
Right. It was a healthy respect. I believe it's good. It was good. But during that time, you were here for how many days?
I'm not
Over
sure.
the wedding, and
Yeah.
you were like just 4 days or
Yeah,
something.
just like 4 days.
Yeah, and so during that time we played volleyball, and there was a bunch of youth together, and it was a lot of fun. But I just remember, looking back now, I was only 17. I was almost 18. In a few weeks I was turning 18, but I was thinking, looking back, I was fairly young, very young, and so was Priscilla. But I just remember thinking she's the cutest girl I've ever seen in my whole life, and I want to, stay in contact somehow. So that was that part of the story. So that's how we first met, was there at my sister's wedding. So Priscilla's 2 sisters came out in the beginning of January 2019 when I was 18. And
I think they were visiting my older sister that was teaching in Libby at the time.
Teaching school.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so, and at that time, as I mentioned, I was kind of going through soul searching, and I needed a change, and I was just looking for some answers and that type of thing. So I thought this was a great opportunity. So I okayed it with my parents, and I went with her sisters and a couple of my friends that had come out from that community as well. And I traveled the train back with them to Michigan. And I wanted to surprise Benjamin, her brother Benjamin. We'd become friends, and also wanted to see Priscilla, although that wasn't the main reason I was going. That was just kind of a bonus at that time, because I was searching for other things in life. But I asked her dad if it was okay if I would, where to stay, because I didn't have any plans. And your dad said, yeah, stay at your place. So I stayed at their place a whole month, and that was a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah, we didn't know he was coming. I think my sister Mary called and told my mom, get a bedroom ready because there's someone coming, but she's not supposed to tell because it's a surprise for my brother. And so I actually kind of suspected it might be him, and I was just like, what? He's gonna live with us for a month? So it was like one of the funnest times when he was with us. He just blended in, was like part of the family. We did a lot of things. We even went traveling to another community.
With all the youth in that community. Yeah, and Priscilla was super shy. Like, we never even talked. She probably said 5 words to me the whole month I was there. I mean, that's no joke. She was very reserved, which made her intriguing to me because she was so reserved. And, guys are usually attracted to girls initially that are outgoing and, that type of thing. But when it all comes down to it, they want a girl that is mysterious and carries herself a little bit, is not out there. So that's how Priscilla was. She was very mysterious to me, very beautiful, very mysterious, and I had to pursue her to figure her out. She just wasn't out there.
So through the next couple years, we saw each other probably once or twice, but he was in Montana and I was in Michigan, so I didn't think much of it. But when I turned 18, the community that I lived in, we went through some
difficult
times, yeah, just a transitional time, and our whole family ended up moving out to Bonners Ferry, Idaho, about an hour from where they lived. And my dad was starting up another community, or we wanted to be back and forth with this community. And so it was actually really exciting for me to go all the way out west, and I knew in the back of my mind that he was there. I lived in Bonners Ferry with my parents for a couple years, and then when I turned 20, or I believe I was still 19, but almost 20, I moved to his community, and I started working in the bakery there, in their store. So then I started seeing him basically every day, because he would come into the bakery almost every morning. His parents would make this, they would have this juicer and make juice these vegetables and fruits together, and he would always come to get his cup of juice and drink it in the morning. So he would usually tell me, say good morning or say something a little bit, and I would always reply back, but that was it. Like he said, I was extremely shy. I think I was insecure a lot, but that was the highlight for me, to bake in there and to see him come in every morning.
And I gotta say that when I knew that she would get up at 4 or 5 o'clock every morning, every day for a long time, and show up there and bake these incredible goodies, I just knew that was a quality that was well worth it. So yep, I would love to go in there and see her. And then, wow, there's just so much to say. I don't know how much to share. I could go on. We could talk for like 2 hours more about it.
We could talk about our trips maybe later.
Yeah, I almost feel like we need to make another video of leading up to our engagement, because this thing is getting so long. There's so much we could tell. So when Priscilla lived in Libby, a few times we went on youth trips, and once we went to the Jasper National Park, Banff National Park in Canada. That was a real fun, exciting time. We got to camp out. We camped out every night. There was about a van load of us youth, and her brothers and sisters, myself, and some of the other youth that were there. Really fun times.
I remember it was so cold in the morning, but I still enjoyed it because we were all together as a youth group and just had a blast together.
Yep.
And remember, we were still, we only used horses and buggies, so we had drivers. We had designated drivers to drive us up there.
Yeah, we had a driver that took us in a van and hauled us all the way up there. And
yeah.
Yep. And then another trip that we took, we went all the way to Prince Edward Island, which was a long trip. That was over 3,000 miles. And we went there to a conference, the whole entire youth group.
Yeah.
That was really amazing. Went to Niagara Falls on the way home, and just that whole time we would interact, and I got to see Priscilla and hang out, kind of, but we still never spoke, basically, more than just a sentence or two maybe here and there.
But we were always together. We played games, a lot of games, and yeah, we got close even though we didn't interact that much.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep. So that was how that happened. And then there's a dream I had. I guess I'll just share that dream real quick. I kept asking God, I kept praying, because I felt this urge. I wanted to meet that special someone like we all do. And I would pray about it. And I felt, I talked with a close confidant of mine, and I didn't tell him what I needed an answer. I said, I need an answer. And he said he felt God tell him, just wait. He didn't know what I was needing an answer for, so I just put it on the shelf, and I just felt I felt that God wanted me to love Him first of all. That was what I felt.
So in our Amish community, we didn't just date to date or to know each, just to see if it works out. We
Right.
actually were very intentional and very serious about who we were going to date, or
Right.
because in our mind, if we were going to ask someone to start courting, in our mind we were already thinking ahead
Right.
to marriage.
Right. Yeah, that was I wasn't going to date around. I was just the girl I was going to ask is the one that I was going to marry. So that was, unless she of course turned me down, but that was my intent. So I had this dream that was the most impactful dream that I ever had in my life. And in this dream, I was in my grandparents' home in Indiana, and where my mother grew up. And in this dream, I saw this Amish girl. I could see she was Amish by the way she was dressed, and she was standing in the doorway with her back towards me. And in my dream, I knew two things, or three things. Number one, I knew that she was Amish. The second thing in my dream, I knew that she was Swiss. And the third thing was I knew that I was going to marry this girl someday. And so it was during that time that our whole community, most of our community went to Switzerland. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But anyways, we went, the youth group went, and most of our community went. But I knew, I felt like during this time I would meet a Swiss girl that I was going to marry, but I looked the whole time and I couldn't find any. I thought I would find someone. I didn't. When I came back, I felt like it was kind of weird, because it was almost like God was, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like an out-of-body experience. I don't know, it was really weird. But I just felt one day to ask her dad that it was time. I asked her dad, I said, hey, can we go out for dinner? He said, sure. I said, I've got something I need to run by. He probably knew what I wanted. But it was just the most nerve-wracking. I hired a driver. I drove to Bonners Ferry. We met at a little cafe, and we had dinner, and I said, hey, I'm interested in your daughter. It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying, beyond measure. Would you consider allowing us to start a courtship? And he said, yes, he'd give us our blessing. And so I was 23.
Yeah, and I had just turned 21.
Yep. And he said yes. So the very next day, okay, so that night I came home after I asked her dad, and I stayed up until midnight, and I wrote this letter, this one-page letter, two-page, I don't remember, it was letter, and the next morning I handed it to her in the bakery. I said, there's no delay, I got the green light, let's go for it. So I handed it to her in the bakery. I said, maybe you want to read this when you have some time alone.
Yeah, when he came in that morning to drink his juice, for some reason, I sensed immediately that there was something different about him. He seemed a little bit nervous. He chatted about hunting because it was hunting season. And then I saw him reach in his pocket, and he brought out this envelope and handed it to me and said, here is something for you. Maybe you would want to wait to read it until you're by yourself. And I just looked at him and said, okay. But immediately I knew that he was asking me, to start a courtship. And I got my work done in the bakery in record time. And I went back to my cabin and went into my room and read the letter, and he just asked such a nice letter, just asking he would like to pursue more of a relationship with me, and that just wondering if he could pursue a courtship with me. And he told me I can take all the time I want to give him an answer, and he said he would like to know me better. And so I was in shock, because I liked him for so many years, but I just didn't know if it ever would happen. And there it happened. And I called up my mom immediately. I said, Mom, you can't guess what happened. And she said, yeah, I think I can guess. And then she told me that Joas had been to see my dad, which I really respected. So that's how it started.
Yep. And I was really shocked. It was only like, I gave her that morning, and the following evening, the phone rings. I was in with dinner. Phone rings. I go to answer the phone. It was Mom and I in the house. And I take the phone, and I take the long cord, and I stretch it all the way, and close the door on the outside. I'm talking to Priscilla, and she said, I guess my answer is, and my heart stopped, yes. And so I was like, wow, I can't believe it. I was just elated. I came in the back of the house, and my mom said, "Is something going on?" I said, "Yeah," and I told her. But what I wanted to say about that dream was, during this course of about 3 days, like, this dream was so impactful to me. I had never forgot the dream. I thought about it all day. I mean, like, constantly, every day I would think about this dream. It was so impacting, so vivid, and so real to me. But for some reason, it like disappeared out of my mind. And that evening she said yes. The next day I was working on my job, driving the loader, and this dream came back to me. And instantly, it came back to me. She's Amish. I'm gonna marry her. And the third thing was that I had never been able to figure out was she's Swiss. And it never crossed my mind, for whatever reason, comes from a Swiss background. She's Swiss Amish. She speaks Swiss. So that was just like a huge confirmation to me. And it was just really like a God thing for me, that knowing that I knew that this was the girl I was going to marry. And from that time, we went through some difficult times during a courtship. We almost quit a few times. But God saw us through, and there was a reason for that. And everything wasn't pie and cake, but I just always had that to go back to, that I really felt that God gave me that dream to put us together. That was always like this comfort to me. I know it's different for everyone. This is not your love story, but this was ours, and that's how God spoke to us about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, we definitely had some difficult times to work through, just because we were two completely different people, and we both had issues. Everybody has issues.
Right.
But just to, we kept at it. Like, we worked through things, and we just got closer, and we knew we couldn't do without each other.
And our courtship was how long?
Was it
7 months?
7 months.
Yeah, we started in end of September, right? And we married on June 18th. So we courted from September through June.
Just before Joas gave me that letter, my older sister Mary and I decided to go to Florida. I had just turned 21, and when the Amish turn 21, usually they get all of their money. So I was making more money than usual, so we decided just to take off and go to Florida for part of the winter, just to have some warm weather and to have some fun. And that was before I knew that Joas was going to ask me. And
can I interject something?
Yeah.
When you say just to get your own money, you're talking about when you turn 21, you get to keep all the money that you earn.
Right.
Before that, you have to give most of it to your parents, typically, traditionally.
Right, because you just work with your parents.
Right, in your family business or whatever.
Yeah.
But it goes towards a family household. So Priscilla turned 21, so you could keep all the money that you earned.
Everything I made,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. So then he asked me just, I believe, was it just 2 weeks or was it a week? 2 weeks before we left.
Something like that.
Yeah, so we ended up only having 2 dates before I left for 2.5 months. So we left, and it was fun. Mary and I both got a part-time job, and then the rest of the time we just hung out by the beach and just had a good time. But then around Christmas time, Joas came out to see me.
Yep, I flew from Montana down to Florida.
By this time, we were flying.
Right.
Yeah.
I spent a week down there, rented an apartment down there, and got to see her every day, which was really cool. And then I had this special thing planned. So we had Christmas together, went out to eat at a restaurant there called Mom's Restaurant. Actually, the restaurant that Priscilla worked in at that time.
Yeah.
The part-time job that you had there. And then the next day, I got this whole thing planned. So that's the other thing is mention here is the Amish don't wear any kind of jewelry, don't wear rings or anything like that. But I wanted to give Priscilla something special, so I actually went and bought a ring. I wanted to ask her to marry me down there in Florida. That was my whole plan. So you can talk about what happened there.
Yeah, and at this time we were only dating for like 3 months, I believe. And most of the time it was long distance.
Yep, 3 months, yep.
Yeah, so the day after our...
you want to say how we, when she was in Florida and I was in Montana, we would call once a week.
Yeah, we would only do calling
We didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
We had no cell phones, so she would walk how far to the neighbor's phone?
I don't remember how far it
It
was.
was a ways,
Yeah.
half a mile or so,
Yeah.
3/4 mile. She would go there. We had a certain time, preset time. We would write letters. Usually once a week we wrote a letter. Plus we would call. So I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday night. I would call her and we'd talk for like 2 hours. That was actually kind of cool because I got to know Priscilla over the phone. It was actually, I felt like I really got to know her over that 3-month period. We had long conversations. But then when I actually went to meet her, it was like kind of awkward in the beginning.
Yeah.
But anyways.
It was almost like starting over just a little
Yeah.
bit. But, yeah, we had some great times just walking the streets and in the evening, and it was just warm and balmy. And
yeah, so I went and bought this ring. I had it in my pocket, and I decided we want to go out to this one beach. And so we did. We took the bus and we went out to this beach, and towards evening, and I had it all planned out. I said, let's go on a walk, and we went down this beach and went kind of about half a mile away from everybody. And as the sun was sinking down over the ocean, I said, come over, let's go over to this rock. And so we kind of went off to the side there a little bit, and I got down on one knee and I said, I've got something special to ask you. And I opened up the ring. I said, would you marry me? And you said,
I said, of course. I remember that. Yeah, when he told me I think he told me to look the other way. And then I was like, what? What is he going to do? I didn't expect this.
Anyway, she said, of course. She didn't say yes, she said, of course. So that was that. Wonderful. We were so excited that we actually missed the bus. The last bus had come and gone.
I was wondering if you'd remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any cell phones. We didn't know how to get out of there.
Yeah.
We were miles from her apartment.
How did you call
We ended up finding someone to call, someone that you knew down there that came eventually and picked us up. So that was kind of a weird thing that happened.
He came and picked us up, and yeah, but that just made for the adventure. It was great.
Yeah. I think we'll make another video of our wedding, talk about how we did the wedding and all that. And yeah, there seemed like there's so much to talk about. But leading up to the wedding, we spent very little money on our wedding. We made all our own gifts, and we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, later in the next one. But anything else you want to say about this part of our life up to this point?
Not really, but it was an awesome time, like it always is for anybody who's in love.
Yep.
And yeah, next time, if you want, we will talk about our wedding and our first few years of marriage. It was also right at the time when we were transitioning out of some of our Amish traditions, some traditional things that we decided not to do anymore. So it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that.
I think we will. Yeah, that was. I think it would be good to make a video. I know some of you asked the question like, how did you get from where you were to where you are right now? And that's a good story. That's a good question to ask. And I think that's another video. That's a long story, really. It's good though. It's a good story. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And this is kind of our love story, and I know everyone has a different one. And that's great. That's awesome. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
This is ours, and it's special to us, and we hope you enjoyed it. But right now, we have 5 hungry children, and they're waiting for dinner, so I think we had better feed them some food. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video. And remember to subscribe.